Finally, after weeks of gloom and clouds, we finally have blue skies. And today, to escape the fast-paced hustle and bustle of everyday life, not that I live in a city or anything, I thought we would reach greater heights, branch out further into the great wide open, spend a little bit of quality time with nature. How does that sound? I think that sounds pretty good to me. So, I'd like to believe that many people don't know about this particular spot. I like to call this my own discovery. I found this spot here looking over the lake many years ago, and it's always quiet here. You get pretty good sun, not a lot of wind, which is great for the camera. So I thought this would be a great place to start with our candle evaluation. Let's get to it. All right. So several weeks ago now, Yankee Candle released a brand new collection called See America, and I'm absolutely fascinated with the idea. I think this is exactly the right step, the right approach. I've always been intrigued by fragrances that were linked to a very specific location. And that's exactly what they've done here. They've chosen 6 national parks, and they use those parks as inspiration to create the next 6 fragrances that you're gonna see. So let's jump right into it. Candle number 1 is going to be, oh man. So one that certainly hits close to home for me. This is going to be See America, the Golden Gate National Recreational Area. And pictured on the label, we have that epic photo of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, we have expectations when we talk about San Francisco, right? But we have to remember this is national parks. We're talking about the great outdoors in the surrounding vicinity of the Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, so my first impressions are this is incredibly floral, which is a little bit of a surprise for me. What's coming to mind are things like gardenia and lilac, carnations, a little bit of white blossom musk. Have you ever smelled Jovan white musk perfume? If you haven't, go to your local perfumer, ask to smell that. You'll know exactly what I mean. It's a very soft, clean, ivory soap, lotion-rich aroma that's derived from white blossoms. And something I'm loving here, and I just hope that Yankee Candle did this on purpose. I hope. I'm picking up on chrysanthemum. And if you've ever seen the classic film Escape from Alcatraz, at the end of the picture, the warden finds a chrysanthemum in the jagged rocks right by the water of the bay. He picks it and looks at it, sniffs it, and crumbles it in his hand. Now that chrysanthemum would not naturally grow in those rocks. That flower is a symbol of hope, a symbol of spirit. And in that moment, everyone in the audience, when they see the warden crush that flower, they know that the gentleman escaped from Alcatraz. I love that. So a little bit of this chlorine smell too, which is, I think, Yankee Candle's approach to trying to create that clean ozone, bay breeze, oceanic influence in this candle. Chlorine is something you would typically smell after like a thunderstorm in the air. When you think about ozone aromas, chlorine is usually one of those descriptors that people use, and it works. It provokes the feeling of clean, fresh air. Another nice surprise is I'm getting freshly picked herbs like parsley. This is like tabbouleh in here, super refreshing. And I would also say that there's some melon qualities in here as well, even like cucumber. And not just the meat of the cucumber, but the actual peel itself. And here comes those redwood trees. I knew we would find them in here somewhere. Very dry wood approach, oaky, cedar-like redwood, if you've ever smelled dried redwood. But that's still a little bit shocking, because when I think about walking around the Muir Woods or the Redwoods, or just walking around Golden Gate National Recreation Area, again, I'm thinking about the climate, how no matter what time of the day or what day you pick, there's always weather happening above you, whether it's mist, whether it's clouds, whether it's fog. Everything is always saturated. The soils, the leafage on the ground, even the redwoods. So having that drying quality, that perception of dried wood, is a little bit outside of what I was expecting. So all in all, I think a very successful fragrance. Is it San Francisco? Is it Golden Gate? That's the question. If San Francisco is your hometown, or if it holds a very special place in your heart, you might be a little bit shocked. I think mainly because of the power of the florals. And I know what Yankee Candle is doing. Those florals are trying to convey the feeling of fresh, clean air. That can't be used against the quality of this fragrance. There's a lot going on, and it's balanced very nicely. So, See America, Golden Gate National Recreational Area. If you take a look at the backside of these See America candles, they actually have a very brief description of the candle. They're not fragrance notes, but they do pinpoint some notes that may or may not be in the candle. I am trying not to look at these. Of course, a few of them have caught my eye, but I'm basing none of my evaluation on what is said on the back of these labels. I was gonna put masking tape on these jars, but I just simply forgot. But trust me, I'm using my nose, not the notes. This is something I don't usually do, but since it's right here, and I'm sure you guys are interested, I will read the fragrance description. Clear ocean air blowing through the Golden Gate with cedar and sheer musk. A very beautiful description, but this just proves to what I'm always saying about these can be heavily deceiving. There is nothing on the back of this jar to imply that there is anything floral going on. And this candle is dominated by floral aromas. And I never said lemon. I want to throw that in there. There's always lemon in fresh, clean air, scented candles, or fragrance in general. All right, very good. Let's move on. See those folks right there on the cliff? They're living on the edge, let me tell you. So few folks could only see what I'm looking at right now. How about I turn the camera around? Oh. I thought this would be a good location because we have this vast open ravine of water, Lake Minnewaska. I hold in my hands the Grand Canyon National Park candle. Now, I've never been, and I have it on my bucket list. I hope to do it one of these days, really soon. But until then, let's see if this candle can bring me to the Grand Canyon via aromatics. Let's give it a go. Oh, look at the guys in the boat. Whoa. There's no point in trying to dance around this point. This is a very warm candle. Warm, yes, and what I mean by that is there's certainly the addition of patchouli, amber, and it has this soapy quality, this glycerin, soapy, sudsy quality. And with that, there's a lot of other fragrances that we closely associate with clean or soap or bathroom. Dried lavender, a lot of green qualities. Green like pine needles or biomass in general, but not fresh, not like pine sap. This is gonna be like a dried out pine tree. So adding to that patchouli and amber, some of the other earthy notes. Vetiver. Vetiver is very commonly used in the fragrance world. It smells like root-based materials, which is what it's derived from. Oak moss. And what's gonna brighten this up a little bit, other than maybe a little bit of that pine, is the addition of citrus. I'm telling you, whenever you see pine, you're always gonna see some form of citrus, at least 95% of the time. and this candle is no exception. Together, collectively, it is evoking the feeling of being somewhere very hot and dry, a lot of different soil types. To me, when I close my eyes, I think of being in like a ghost town. Tumbleweeds, you know, gnarly chunks of dead trees just laying on the ground, that old saloon that's been boarded up for God knows how many years. You know, it just has that out in the wilderness, out in the great wide open smell to it. Cypress and cedar and a touch of patchouli, big and clear cut as the canyon itself. The Grand Canyon, see America. I really didn't come prepared. These are certainly not the right shoes. But man, look how that sun cuts through those leaves and casts that green gold light everywhere on the ground. All right. So to set the stage for this next candle, I thought we would get this beautiful look of not the Smoky Mountains, but the Catskill Mountains. And to help get me in the state of mind, to get me into the mood of visiting the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, what better place to sit? Let's give this candle a shot. Woo! Oh, Christmas, there you are, there you are. Big time pine, a big time pine sap. Cedar for sure, Christmas written all over it. And what I find extra funny is that it actually smells a little bit like Coca-Cola, and it kind of makes me think of Santa Claus being the mascot of Coca-Cola. Let's not get wrapped up too much in Christmas. Maybe I shouldn't have said pine. I should say more like spruce. We have cypress, we have pine, and we have spruce. And when you smell, say like a blue spruce tree, it does have more of that outdoorsy, camping in the summertime aroma. And although this does make me think about Christmas a little bit, it also does make me think about roughing it in the woods, camping in the wild with friends and family, birds chirping, crickets, whatever the sound they make. Crickets chirp? They chirp, right? That Coca-Cola, to me, is enhancing a tree sap illusion. Pine cone. And speaking of pine cone, juniper berries, right? That high tinge, gin-like smell. Other things brightening this up, once again, citrus. And for me, it is all about the lime. So if you've ever smelled, I hate to draw comparisons, but if you've ever smelled or experienced Pine Cone and Lime by Yankee Candle, or even Shimmering Pine from last year's online exclusive, that's what's happening here. You're getting that rustic outdoors pine tree, Smoky Mountains, but it's going to be brightened up by the sweetness of that Coca-Cola / tree sap, and brightened with that citrus and juniper berry. Very, very nice. So let me quickly paint two portraits for you. Rip off a branch from your Christmas tree, dunk it in melted sugar, get a candy-crusted twig of Christmas tree, and just take a lime and squeeze the juice right on top. That is essentially the experience that I'm getting. But we can also say, imagine waking up on a cold, misty morning in the Smoky Mountains, and as those clouds roll through the sky and burn off all of that mist and fog, you're sitting around with your friends and family drinking some pine tea or green tea with a little bit of lemon, that being the lime that I mentioned before, and all of those aromas around you, the trees, the grass, the green, the soil, the dirt, those beautiful smells that we associate with the great outdoors, the great wide open, summertime camping in mountainous regions is all going to be at play, and I think a very, very well executed candle, the Great Smoky Mountains. As clean and fresh as air combed through the piney woods of the Great Smokies. Really well done. I like it. I like it a lot. Oh man, you tell me right now, if I should be having chills running through my body, because I certainly do. It's quiet down this path. There was a lot of people picnicking and enjoying the sunny weather that we're finally having. But I've taken this route, and suddenly the sounds of civilization are gone. It's comforting and a bit chilling. Man, these are not the right shoes right now. So let's just hope that there is no poison ivy. So next candle on our agenda here is Badlands National Park. Just take a look at that label for a minute. Again, we're dealing with a sense of place, and what a place to have a candle based on. So many possibilities. That scenery, that terrain. How could you not want a fragrance, an aroma to help transport you to this location? So let's see what's going on inside of Badlands. Oh man. Smokiness. Can you deal with smoke? But I should be more clear. This isn't like billowing clouds of smoke hitting your face, right? This is more of something that has been smoked in the past tense, because I'm getting this sweet hickory and dried cedar. Again, that dried cedar. It almost smells like somewhere you would store your firewood for the winter season. But the first thing that was ringing the bells in my brain was beef jerky. A peppered, cracked black peppered beef jerky. There is that gaminess, there is that meatiness to this candle. And if that turns you off, give me a second, because I love bold choices, and already this has surpassed my expectations as far as making bold choices. There's going to be baking spices. I'm going to classify them, not so much cinnamon, but nutmeg and star anise. You can never miss that one. Star anise has that black licorice aroma. And there's a sweetness here. Of course, my mind wants to think of teriyaki beef jerky, but I think a good way to describe it would be something like molasses. Think of that nice, dark, robust molasses. And you know what? I'm getting that saturated soil, or better yet, saturated mulch that I was expecting to smell on the Golden Gate. If we wanted to talk about florals, I could certainly see some floral action here in the realm of jasmine. Same thing with fruit. Not a whole lot of fruit going on, but I definitely could see kind of like a spiced orange. So something I really should state, this is a pretty masculine candle. I know that's a subjective statement, but if I were to classify this, very manly, very mountain man kind of smell here. Tobacco leaf or tobacco. Let me specify, I'm not getting that sweet raisinated smell that you get on tobacco sometimes. This is much more of the experience of walking in a humidor, a walk-in humidor where you buy quality cigars. It has that tobacco, Sherlock Holmes, Philip Marlowe, Sam Spade kind of smell to it. Very, very masculine in an old school, sophisticated way. There it is. Badlands National Park. Another one that you should check out if you liked my description. I'll tell you a little bit about Yankee Candle's description on the back. A wide open mix of sage, cedar, and patchouli, striking and masculine as the craggy Badlands. Yeah, I mean patchouli, I don't think that's a lie, nor is sage. If I were to elaborate on this sage, it definitely wouldn't be like a freshly picked sage. It's kind of like the sage that's dried out in bundles. You set a flame and you christen a new home. And maybe that's where that smokiness is coming from. Patchouli is always going to give you that of the earth, earthy, woodsy, and highly herbaceous aroma. And there's certainly a lot of that going on here. So very fair description, if you ask me. Badlands by Yankee Candle. All right, so the next candle in the See America collection is Cape Cod National Seashore, Massachusetts. That is the full name. It's a mouthful, that's for sure, but that's what it says. So a little bit of something I was debating whether or not I was going to say. I was going to actually film this segment in Cape Cod, but with the nasty weather that we've been having this season, it was just simply not meant to be. And speaking of weather, we have a big, deep, dark cloud hanging over the sun, but time is of the essence. So let's jump into this one. Cape Cod. I have a lot of expectations, don't you? Don't you have expectations? Wow. I mean, I definitely have descriptors, but I'm always looking for the concept. Some things are jumping out, others I might have to think about for a little bit. But here's what I'm smelling. Once again, we're getting citrus. We might as well just get citrus out of the way. To me, it's showing itself as a very tart pink lemonade, even orange juice, and the rind, we should include that as well. Passion fruit. There is a perceived tartness. So something that's really special that's happening here and is perfectly appropriate is the saltiness, the sea breeze, the saline, the sea salt quality that I'm smelling on this candle. Not all aquatic, nautical, beach candles have this. This one does. This smells like kosher salt. But what's really jumping out again is the florals. Goodness gracious, so much florals. Let me try to identify the best I can for you folks. So I can't say for certain that all of the florals that I'm smelling are of course in this jar, but I'm trying to express to you, communicate to you what I'm smelling. Peony, peony for sure, that bright, even fruity smell of peony. Rose, rose petal, or even you could say the stem of the rose, like freshly clipped rose. And an assortment of flowers that we associate with being on the coast, very Polynesian influenced, like lei, hibiscus, carnation, tuberose, and lily. Yes, that very powerful, pungent lily aroma. This is almost taking me back to some of the summer candles from 2017. And I desperately want to say green tea, but you know, I think it's more of the associations, right? We talked about the hibiscus, we talked about the citrus, we talked about the passion fruit, which is a popular ingredient in iced teas these days. And then as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about all of the other sweetness that's in here, like fresh melon sweetness. And then it dawned on me. I get it, possibly. You know, imagine a very large glass pitcher of sweetened iced tea with ice cubes and wedges and slices of lemons. And now it's starting to paint that portrait. Now it's starting to make sense. I'm imagining sitting on a front porch or a patio of a house in Cape Cod, sipping on a super cold glass of sweetened iced tea, as all of those beautiful seaside beach flowers, that aroma is just blowing in my face, with that coastal influence coming right in as well. This is like a warm, sunny, breezy afternoon in Cape Cod. I do want to forewarn you though, a lot of florals happening inside this jar. And speaking of that, Yankee Candle's descriptions, oh my God, look at this. A sunny day along the Cape. Warm scents of salt air and beach flowers. Bingo, bango. Okay, so nothing about iced tea, but other than that, that was pretty close. I agree with everything that's on the back of that label, but remember, there's always more. There's always so much more going on. All right, so question, 20 feet deep, no diving. If this is 20 feet deep, you can't dive? Not that I'm planning on diving, but that seems a bit odd. How deep do people go when they dive into a lake? Especially with no height. I mean, there's nothing to jump off of here, you see? There's no cliffs. There's cliffs over here. All right, folks, and last but certainly not least, well, I don't know because I haven't smelled it, but here we have the Everglades National Park. And yet another park I have never been to, but I have a pretty good portrait in my head. I've seen enough photography and video to have an idea, to have a guess of what this may or may not smell like. Let's dive deep into the Everglades and hopefully we don't get eaten alive by parasites or alligators or anything like that. Okay. All right. I like it. All right. You like that, Santa? I like that. Green. Very green, which is super appropriate. Not necessarily just the obvious things like green grass and chlorophyll. I'm thinking of like green bell peppers. I'm thinking of okra. I'm thinking of yellow squash and zucchini. Yellow squash isn't green, but you know what I mean. We can even go to matcha, like matcha tea. It's green tea that's macerated into a powder and it's cultivated in a very special way. If you've never had matcha, you gotta check it out. There's a fruity, refreshing side here. I'm thinking of Asian pear. Now, if you've never had an Asian pear, we have to be clear here. This is nothing like a Bartlett pear. It's a different texture, it's a different flavor, it's very candy-esque, and it actually has more of the texture of watermelon than it does a typical tree fruit like a pear or an apple. And herbaceous, this is what I'm talking about. This is how you take us to the Everglades. Herbaceous in the form of weeds, like dandelions and tall blades of grass. You know, the ones that you rub your fingers on and they're really prickly. And speaking of that, prickly pear. We're getting hemp and even nettle. So with that green tea and with some of those herbaceous things that I just said, if you are a big tea aficionado, this is something you have to at least check out. This might really excite you because tea is coming to my mind in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's really painting that portrait of what I imagine of the Everglades. Let's keep on going. I am getting candy notes in the form of a banana. Banana runts candy, even more specifically, banana Laffy Taffy. But if we don't want to take the candy route, just think of an authentic banana, but a green banana. And not just the meat, not just the starchy fruit, but the peel itself. I'm smelling the yellow banana peel that's slightly green still on the nose of this candle, and all of it has been sweetened. Very specifically, honeydew melon. Again, green for days here. And before I call it quits on this candle, I just want to throw this one in there because I smelled it and then I decided not to say it, but now I'm having a change of heart. Rose. There's a little bit of rose petal in this as well. I don't know, folks. I think out of all of the candles going into this evaluation, this was certainly not the one I thought would be the highlight of the show. But if I had to choose one, and one only, out of the 6 See America Yankee candle collections, I think it's going to be the Everglades National Park. I usually don't pick favorites, but this one is speaking the most to me because there's a lot of associations. It's very refreshing, it's very clean, it's very soothing, but at the same time, it smells authentically like being outdoors. Very, very nicely done. Yankee candles, descriptions on the back, a fresh, flowing scent of tropical leaves, bright citrus, and the warm waters of the Everglades. Hey, it sounds beautiful, it smells beautiful, I'll go with that. But if you like the description of any of the other candles that I talked about today, make sure you go into your local Yankee candle, give them a shot. And I think, folks, that is going to do it for me today. Those clouds are covering the sun more and more. We're losing that sun. So this is where we must part. I must say goodbye. But thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Question of the day: which national park, or any park for that matter, I'm actually in a state park right now, which park do you want to visit the most? And if there's one that's a favorite, which one is your favorite? Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do that. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you folks real soon. Have a good one. Very, very masculine in an old school, in an old school sophisticated way. And I'll tell you a little bit about Yankee Candle's description here. A wide open mix of sage, cedar, and patchouli, striking and masculine as the craggy Badlands. Striking and masculine as the craggy Badlands.